What if the most unexpected person told you the truth you were too afraid to face? Jasmine Williams moved through the upscale restaurant, La Lumière, with the grace of someone who had mastered the art of invisibility. At 28, her dark eyes missed nothing. Every glance, every hushed word, every subtle shift in the room's energy. Her uniform, crisp and black, clung to her slender frame as she balanced trays of artisanal cocktails and plates of seared scallops. Her skin, a rich brown, glowed under the dim chandelier light, but her presence was designed to fade into the background. To the patrons, Chicago's elite, she was just another server, a fleeting shadow ensuring their evening was flawless. But Jasmine was anything but ordinary. Raised in Englewood, where dreams often withered under the weight of poverty, she'd clawed her way out of a childhood marked by her mother's string of toxic relationships and her father's absence. Each betrayal she witnessed as a child, her mother's tears, her stepfather's lies, had sharpened her ability to read people. She saw through facades, caught the flickers of guilt or longing in a stranger's eyes. It was a survival skill, one she carried into La Lumière, where she served the city's wealthiest while dreaming of her own restaurant, a place where everyone, no matter their background, would feel seen. Tonight, her shift was dragging. The restaurant was packed, the air thick with the scent of truffle oil and ambition. She tucked a loose braid behind her ear, her hands steady despite the ache in her feet. As she refilled a glass of Pinot Noir at table 12, her gaze flickered to the man seated alone at table 7. Darren Harrington. She knew him from the news, from the whispers of other servers, from the way his presence commanded the room even when he said nothing. Darren Harrington, 45, sat at his usual corner table, his tailored suit impeccable, his jaw tight. To the world, he was the picture of success, a billionaire who'd built Harrington Enterprises from a single software patent into a tech empire. His latest acquisition, a startup specializing in AI-driven logistics, had plastered his face across Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. But tonight, the man who could buy half of Chicago looked like he was carrying the weight of it instead. His dark hair, streaked with silver, was neatly combed, but his eyes betrayed him. They were heavy, shadowed by sleepless nights and a gnawing unease. His wife, Clarissa, hadn't joined him tonight, and the absence felt like a splinter under his skin. Their marriage, once a partnership of passion and ambition, had grown cold. Clarissa's late nights, her evasive answers, the way her laughter no longer reached her eyes, it all pointed to something Darren didn't want to name. He sipped his scotch, the burn doing little to dull the ache. His phone buzzed, and he answered it, his voice low but sharp. "No, I don't care what they're offering. If they can't deliver by next quarter, we pull the deal." A pause. Then, quieter. "And tell Clarissa I'll be home late." The name left a bitter taste in his mouth, and he hung up, his fingers tightening around the glass. Clarissa Harrington, 42, was a vision of elegance, even in her absence. Her beauty, porcelain skin, auburn hair, a smile that could disarm a room, had once been Darren's anchor. They'd met at a charity gala 20 years ago, when he was still scrappy and she was a budding socialite. She'd believed in him, or so he thought, and their marriage had been the cornerstone of his climb to power. But now, her life of private jets and penthouse parties felt hollow. She was restless, her days filled with luncheons and her nights with secrets. Clarissa wasn't at La Lumière tonight because she was across town, in the arms of Michael Langston, Darren's business partner. Michael was everything Darren wasn't, attentive, reckless, alive. Their affair had started 6 months ago, a stolen kiss after a late-night meeting. Now, it was a full-blown addiction, one she justified as her escape from a marriage that had become a gilded cage. The night was winding down, the restaurant's crowd thinning to a few lingering power players. Jasmine approached Darren's table with his bill, her steps measured, her smile professional. But as she set the leather folder down, she saw it, the raw, unguarded pain in his eyes. It was the same look her mother used to wear when another man broke her heart. Jasmine's chest tightened. She knew that look too well. Darren barely acknowledged her, lost in his thoughts, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. For reasons she couldn't fully explain, Jasmine felt a pull, an instinct to say something, anything, to pierce the fog of his denial. She leaned in, just close enough for her words to reach him alone. "Your wife is cheating on you," she whispered, her voice soft but clear, like a pebble dropped into still water. Darren's head snapped up, his eyes locking onto hers. Confusion flashed across his face, then disbelief, then something darker, fear. "What did you say?" His voice was low, almost a growl. Jasmine didn't flinch, but her heart raced. She straightened, her expression neutral, and walked away, disappearing into the rhythm of the restaurant. Darren stared after her, his mind reeling. Who was she? How could she know? The words echoed, each syllable a needle pricking at his carefully constructed reality. Over the next few days, Jasmine's whisper haunted Darren. He tried to dismiss it. Maybe she'd misspoken, maybe she'd overheard something out of context. But doubt took root, growing like a weed. He started noticing things he'd ignored before: Clarissa's late-night texts, her sudden interest in charity meetings, the way she avoided his touch. Each clue was a brick in a wall he didn't want to face. One evening, while Clarissa was supposedly at a yoga class, Darren checked her phone. The passcode was still their anniversary, a detail that stung as he unlocked it. There, in her messages, was the truth. Flirty texts, suggestive emojis, and a photo of her and Michael Langston at a hotel bar. Darren's stomach churned. He scrolled further, finding months of deception, each message a betrayal. When Clarissa came home, he was waiting in their penthouse living room, the city skyline glittering coldly behind him. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with pain. Clarissa froze, her designer handbag slipping to the floor. For a moment, she considered lying, but the truth was written in his eyes. "Yes," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's Michael. It's been going on for months." Darren's world tilted. "Why?" he asked, the question raw and desperate. She looked away, her eyes glistening. "Because I don't love you anymore, Darren. I haven't for years. I married you for the life you promised, and you gave it to me. But it's not enough. I'm not enough for you, and you're not enough for me." The words cut deeper than the affair itself. Darren had spent his life building an empire for her, for them, only to learn it was all a lie. He felt like a fool, a man who'd traded his soul for a dream that never existed. Darren couldn't stop thinking about the waitress. Why had she said it? What did she know? He returned to La Lumiere the next week, his heart heavy but his resolve firm. He requested Jasmine's section, and when she approached, her expression was wary but curious. "Why did you say it?" he asked, his voice low, his eyes searching hers. Jasmine hesitated, then sat across from him, a rare break in her shift. "I saw it in you," she said. "The way you looked, like you were carrying something too heavy. I know that look. I've seen it in my mom, in myself. I heard you on the phone that night, talking about your wife. There was something in your voice. I just knew." Darren leaned back, stunned by her honesty. "You don't even know me." "I don't have to," she said. "I know pain. And I know what it's like to live a lie." Their conversation stretched late into the night, the restaurant emptying around them. Jasmine told him about her childhood, about the men who'd promised her mother the world and left her broken. Darren, in turn, admitted his fears, of being alone, of having built his life on a foundation that was crumbling. For the first time in years, he felt seen, not as a billionaire, but as a man. Darren's confrontation with Clarissa marked a turning point. He filed for divorce, a decision that shocked Chicago's elite. The tabloids buzzed with speculation, but Darren didn't care. He was done living for appearances. He sold off parts of his company, stepping back from the relentless grind that had defined his life. Instead, he turned his focus inward, reconnecting with his estranged sister and aging parents, relationships he'd neglected for years. Inspired by Jasmine's dream, he founded the Harrington Hope Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to supporting single parents, particularly women of color, in building stable futures. He offered Jasmine a role as a program director, recognizing her empathy and resilience. At first, she hesitated. She was a waitress, not a leader, but Darren saw in her what she couldn't see in herself. Working together, they built something meaningful. The foundation funded scholarships, provided job training, and created safe spaces for families to heal. Jasmine's vision of a restaurant where everyone felt welcome became a reality within the foundation's community centers, where meals were shared and stories were told. Months later, as the foundation's first community center opened, Darren and Jasmine stood side by side, watching families fill the space with laughter and hope. Their connection had deepened, not into romance, but into something rarer, a friendship built on trust and mutual respect. Darren had learned to value human connection over wealth, and Jasmine had found the courage to step into her own power. One evening, as they cleaned up after an event, Darren handed Jasmine a folder. Inside was a business plan for her restaurant, fully funded by the foundation. "This is yours," he said. "Not because of me, but because of you. You're the one who's going to make it real." Jasmine's eyes welled up, her fingers trembling as she held the plan. For the first time, she saw her dream not as a distant hope, but as a reality within reach. "Why me?" she asked, echoing his question from months ago. Darren smiled, his eyes warm. "Because you saw me when no one else did. And because you deserve it." Jasmine's restaurant, Unity Table, opened a year later in the heart of Chicago. It was everything she'd dreamed of, a place where people from all walks of life shared meals, stories, and laughter. Darren was a regular, not as a billionaire, but as a friend, sitting at a corner table with a cup of coffee and a smile. Their story wasn't one of romance or revenge, but of redemption and connection. Jasmine's whisper had shattered Darren's world, but it had also set him free. And in helping him find his way, she'd found her own.